Hello and welcome back to the RattleMind podcast. I'm Rye, and join me is my co-host.
Chi.
Look, I didn't mess it up.
It's like a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, all right. Today we're just going to talk about what consoles we had. And I guess, since I probably had the oldest console, we
Yeah,
have
I think you
actually
did.
talked about this a little bit before, but not a lot. But yeah, I had an Atari 2600A. I still have it. It's in a box, it's like, and next to my old computer desk.
Wow.
The only problem is that it has the antenna hookups, is what I have for it. So, and I'm sure not many people remember this thing, but antennas used to be like little rabbit ears that would go on top of your TV, and you'd connect them with screws onto it. And the way you hooked up the Atari to that was that you put a little hook behind the screws before the antenna, and then got the screws screwed in. I'm old. Actually, my gaming history is old. I'm not exactly all that old.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
I started on an N64. I'm so glad I skipped all that. What the hell?
but yeah, I had the Atari. You had a few different controllers for it. You had either a joystick, with one button. Yeah, it only had one button. Maybe it had two. Did it have the top button? I don't remember. Or you had a weird turn knob wheel. And that's how you played the game. And then the cartridges were basically like 8 tracks that you plugged into the thing. I doubt anyone remembers what an 8-track is. I don't think I've ever actually held an 8-track. But yeah.
I don't think I have either. I never used one, but I always knew what one was.
Right.
I started on cassette tapes.
Yeah, so did I.
So,
Didn't even do records.
nah, me either.
I mean, well, yes or no, I did records, but when I was listening to music, it was mostly cassette tapes or CDs.
Hmm.
All right, moving on, because the Atari, there's not a whole lot you can say about it, because it was low graphics, hard to hook up, but it was fun to play
And
for what you had.
And it was the reason for what is known as the worst game ever made in the history of ever.
Oddly enough, E.T. is not the worst game ever made. I know it's controversial to say that, but it's not the worst game. There are worse games now.
I'm afraid to know what you think the worst game is, if not that old ET game.
Well, the problem with the old E.T. game is that you would fall into these holes and you
Yeah,
just
the
get stuck there.
glitchiness.
And then it's hard to get out. And, yeah.
Yeah, it was entirely too rushed.
Well, that was basically all they could do with but yeah, it was
Yeah.
rushed for the movie release and stuff. But the worst game, I would say, especially for the Atari, was that there was a game where you played as... What is the Colonel's, that famous... Basically, was basically cowboys and Indians, but naughty. So the cowboys were bleeping the Indians in that game, and I would call that the worst one. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
yeah, we're going to move on from that subject because that's probably as much adult subject as we need.
I would still think that's better than ET, though.
Yes and no. I mean, yeah, you could
At least you
play
can
it
use
easier,
your imagination to
yeah, but
have
we
a
don't
good
need
time.
an adult game. But yeah, the next console I had that I played on was the original Nintendo Entertainment System. Technically not the original because the Famicom was the first version of it, which was in Japan. Basically, it was the
There's
family
one in the
computer.
States.
Yeah, this is the version that actually got out of Japan most of the time. It had all the good games on it. I mean, you played it. When you had one of these, it was the only thing we played games on, basically. You know,
Okay.
you got to blow on the cartridge to make sure there's no dust on the connectors, and you open the door there and stuff the cartridge in, and then you hope that it reads properly.
It worked every time on the N64.
Yeah, but that was after three other, 64, two other consoles before it, so
Yeah.
they had it down by then. But yeah, this is what I grew up on playing more than
That's
the
what I meant
Atari.
was like we still blew in the cartridge
Yeah,
though.
but that
Like
was a
I
habit
meant like
from
the
this. That was something
I
born
never
from
had
this.
that.
I
But
know.
that's just what we did.
Yeah, but that whole blowing on the cartridge
That's how
thing
you learned.
spawned from
How
this. Yeah.
society learned.
Yep.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, I played most of all the Zelda games for this. I played. I was not good at them at all. I will tell you that. What else? I think the original Final Fantasy games were on this. But the first, which is a weird way, no, the first ones that came out to the States did not release for this. They released on that one, the Super Nintendo. Now, which is weird because the sixth game in the Final Fantasy series is the third game, or was labeled as the third game when it originally came to Western culture, because Final Fantasy 1 and 2 were actually were actually 4 and 5. I don't know my history for Final Fantasy as well as I used to. But this is the other console I used to play. The big purple switch slider buttons. Those were days. I played a lot of consoles back then when I was a kid, and then basically after you grow up to be an adult, you switch to PC gaming mostly. Because you always have a PC. But the Super Nintendo, I did play a lot. There's really not much to say. Basically, you played Square games, or you find some stupid thing somewhere out there that you never realized was an actual game until you look back at it. I think my brother actually has the Super Nintendo and all the games we had for it. Because I know he took all the consoles when he moved out of the house. The next console we had was the Sega Genesis, or Master System if you lived in the UK and Europe.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, they just named it differently. I don't know why. But
it happens.
I did play all the Sonic, well, not all of them, but I did play the Sonic games and things like that.
Yeah, we had just the regular Sega for that.
Well, this is the regular Sega, the 16-bit.
Oh.
Yeah.
That looks different for some reason. I don't know. It's been a while since I've had one.
Well, there were add-ons. That was the weird thing about the Sega, is that it had add-ons and not just a new console every time. So,
oh, you know what we had too, though? It didn't work half the time, but we had one of those handheld Segas.
Oh, yes, I actually have one of those on my floor somewhere.
That's great.
Yeah, instead of the Game Boy, that's what I got. But yeah, here's the full thing with the Sega. Because you got the 32X booster thingy here, and then you had the Sega CD off to the side. And
they got creative.
Yeah, it literally, you just slotted in new things.
Nifty.
Yeah. Consoles have come a long way from that.
Right.
Let's see. Then I guess we got the 64
However, no
next.
more sturdy. In
Yeah,
fact,
they're
less
they're
sturdy.
less sturdy. You can break a console now without even trying.
Right, if you breathe on it too hard.
Yeah, I guess the next system that would have come out would probably be the PlayStation. No, the original PlayStation would have come out after the 64. I don't remember. I don't know my consoles anymore.
GameCube, maybe?
GameCube was discs and came out
Oh,
after
that's
the
right.
64.
I never had one. I just knew people that had those.
Yeah, my brother had one.
Well, the N64, that's where my
Yeah, that's your jam, so I'll let you talk about it.
yeah. I mean, they had the funkiest controllers, but like you get used to it and like before you know it, your hands are sweating, but like you don't care, like your hands are cramping, you don't realize it till you got to put it down to go eat or something. Then you got to like pry each finger off of it individually because it got so clamped onto that middle. And like nobody ever used the stupid what's it called?
The directional pad?
Pad.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the left because you have to hold the middle. The Z button, the back button is right behind the joystick in the middle. So you held it by the middle and you can use that directional pad. That's
Yeah.
insanity. Oh man. But back when my dad was in his second marriage, he had two daughters and um so I had two stepsisters that I would see every other weekend with my sister. And we played the hell out of some N64. Uh, we had monster truck racing games. We had the Star Wars pod racer games. We had the Mario games, Mario parties,
Yeah.
um, Smash Brothers, all those. Uh, just the popular classics. I know there are some oldie goldies that other people are screaming
Yep, like
that I'm not
GoldenEye.
mentioning. Yeah, we didn't play that one. Um, we had a weird monster killing one that was like pretty scary for us at the time, but I can't remember for the life of me what it was called, and we didn't play it that much anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's and then I don't know what happened to the original one we used those years ago, but in my later years, sometime in my 20s, I went out and got one of my own. And to this day I regret not saving up and getting the Pikachu one. There's like a blue one with a giant Pikachu head and
Wow.
like a whole set of stuff for it. And like I wanted so goddamn bad. Oh yeah, speaking of Pikachu, there was a game back when Blockbuster was alive and well.
Yeah.
Um, they had a game rental section. It wasn't just movies. And uh for the N64, we would rent this game called Hey You Pikachu or Hey Pikachu or something like that.
Hmm.
And it came with like a little headset and a mic.
Oh
And
yeah, I remember something about that.
yeah, it was the coolest thing, but it never worked.
Yeah.
It never, we couldn't, I don't know if it was because it was a rental or what, but getting it to work was a nightmare and a half, so we never got really into it, but. I also got exposed to N64 games because whenever we traveled and went to hotels, you could rent like time to play, like by the hour. You could play video games by the hour and pay by the
Interesting.
hour. Um, and we would always play Smash Brothers and Pokemon Snap.
Huh.
And I eventually like got Pokemon Snap for myself on the N64, and that game holds up. It really does. And the new one's pretty fun too. I had to get the new one for the Switch when that came out, and I think it's pretty cool. It's just visually so stunning, and there's just obviously a much bigger variety of Pokemon, seeing as how there's
Right.
like 1,000 of them now. So, um, yeah, N64, that's where my heart's at.
All right. Let's see what the next one is. The original Xbox. That
I,
is one that I had. Actually, I
I,
probably should have gone the original PlayStation first because I went through PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, then the Xbox, but I like the Xbox. Of course, the controller was huge. I mean, not as big as
yeah.
the original controller they had designed, which they nicknamed the Duke. Yeah, it was
Okay,
it was
guys.
really big. So they named it after John Wayne, the Duke.
That's funny.
But they had to make a smaller version of the controller because they were finding that Asian people could not hold the controller. It was too big.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's the Xbox is where I got introduced to the Elder Scrolls because I played Morrowind on it,
Um,
which was the Elder Scrolls 3. Yeah. And see, what else did I play on it? I wish I kept my games. I should never have gotten rid of my games. I still have the console though, but a few of my games I just don't know what happened to.
no.
Um, but the Fable games started on the original Xbox.
Oh yeah.
Or was it the 360? I'm pretty sure it was the original Xbox. Who
I
knows?
did play Fable. I didn't start with Fable until Fable 3 though.
Yeah, regrettably, you cannot find the second Fable game.
Huh.
It is a really hard game to find. And I think it has something to do with musical licensings, which irks the hell out of me that you can produce a video game and then when you try to digitize it, you can't actually put the music that was original to it on there because guess what? It was only a license. It was not licensed to
Mm.
be PC.
Well, guess the world has to end now. Bye.
Yeah, but that happens a lot, especially in video games. And in fact, there are some movies that cannot be released because the license does not transfer to DVD, Blu-ray, or streaming.
Damn.
Yeah. So so lesson to be learned from the Xbox and all other things. Don't license music. Just have someone write music for you and own it yourself. In fact,
Yeah.
in any creative endeavor, you should never license any content. You should always own it. Keep hold of your IP, keep hold of your all of this stuff because you do not want someone else in control of it.
Fair enough.
All right. And then let's go to
And
the
you'll get your you'd get your investment back on hiring,
right.
a songwriter because then you'll be available on more platforms and stuff. So,
Well, you'd own the song outright so that
well, yeah, that too.
no one could revoke your songs. Yeah, it's one of the
Right.
original Need for Speed games cannot be re-released because of the music that was in it, as well as Tony Hawk games. But moving on, we'll go to the next generation of Xbox consoles, the 360.
That was a good console. I like the 360. We
Yeah,
didn't use it a whole lot, but
neither did I.
we did love what we used.
I liked that it was one of the first consoles that had wireless controllers.
Yeah.
And I mean, technically, the PlayStation 2 had wireless controller capability, which means you had to buy an extended thingy to plug into it so that you could use a third party controller.
Yeah. Oh,
I,
speaking of that, I forgot to mention that the N64 controllers had little add-on things you could buy
yeah, that's
too.
right.
like there's like little storage things. Like the controllers had like little in the back. Yeah, you could like snap these cartridges into the controller, and you'd have like storage and stuff. It was really kind of funky.
Well, it's like underneath this door here on the actual
Yeah,
console. You took that out and you could put in a memory extender.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah,
And
we never used it, but
the main way you got that was by buying Donkey Kong Country, I think.
I did get into the Donkey Kong stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, I had a 360 as well. I think that was the first console I actually bought with my own money. I don't remember.
Actually, quite possibly me too, because I got the limited edition Star Wars 360 with the Kinect,
Yeah.
and like motion sensors were starting to be the next big thing in video games. And
Yeah.
I think PlayStation was doing the dorky like wand
Yeah, they had
things.
those controllers with the giant blue balls on them.
Like I have those, but only because I have the PSVR uh for the PS4, and you have to use their wands
Yeah.
to play those games. But like um the Kinect was it was functional for the most part. I didn't have any like major issues, I guess, playing the Star Wars game with the
Yeah.
motion sensors and stuff.
The only
Uh,
Kinect game that I actually had and played was the fourth Fable game that they don't really count because it was just a
uh, Dude, that game was the first game I ever pre-ordered, right? Paid
yeah.
everything and eagerly waited because I love Fable 3 so much. And then Fable 4 was just like I stopped so early in. I was just like, ugh.
It was disappointing because it was the whole gesture thing. You move your hand to this screen. It's not registering my hand. I'm moving my freaking
Right.
hand. Register me throwing the fireball. Yeah. Of course, it can find ghosts without a problem, but it can't register my living hands.
Right.
That's basically the biggest thing that came out of the 360 was we'll take the Kinect bar and go ghost hunting with it. Because that's where you get when you see people ghost hunting and you see the wireframe people. That's actually from the Kinect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Kinect
There's a
software.
whole, we talked about that device that they used in Sam and Colby that like detected
Yeah,
uh like body, the I guess that's what you call it, the wireframe, where it's just like the line and the
yep,
shoulders, all lines connecting. It's like connect the dots humans, you know. It was really trippy.
yeah. The Kinect was a good idea, but was before it could be implemented properly. I mean, as it is now,
Yeah.
uh, the current version of the Kinect or whatever it is doesn't really operate as good, but it's better than the well, it's better than the original, but it still has its funkiness to it. So,
Yeah.
and if,
I mean, the world has moved on to VR now, so it's kind of
yeah,
obsolete.
well, VR is still having issues in general,
Well,
but
it's not
VR
perfect
is
yet, but
yeah,
my VR
VR
Quest is pretty freaking sweet.
yeah, VR is much better than the Kinect because it has points to track. Because it can actually track where your joysticks go and where your head is
Right.
looking. Which, funny enough, the first time I played VR was one of those giant treadmill things where you had to get in and, they had to strap your hips in and then they put this huge bulky helmet on top of you.
I saw that at a Microsoft store. They were displaying that, and I thought it was cool at the time.
Uh, it actually, I think the first versions of that came out either late 80s or early 90s. So
What?
VR has been around forever. It's just not been publicly viable until the last
Right.
15 to 20 years.
Oh, it really started with the ones that you put your smartphone into, and you had to have a good phone. Like, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, like you had to have a really good phone, but you could get a VR headset for it. My uncle had one, and it got me so hooked to VR that we found like this cheap version.
Yeah.
Don't get a cheap VR. It is not the same.
No.
I mean, technically, you can like find apps that support it, and you put the thing on, you put your phone in, and you can kind of have a VR experience, but like you're gonna have a lot of issues.
Yeah.
um, but that's how uh, I was introduced to it, was my uncle's phone VR, which was really cool.
All right, let's see what the next console is. The original PlayStation.
Oh yeah, we're still on old
Yeah,
consoles.
we're supposed to be on
we,
old consoles.
We skipped ahead a
yeah,
little.
we skipped ahead a lot.
Never had the original PlayStation. I started on PS2.
I did. I think the first time I played the original PlayStation, I was over at a friend's house. One of the few times I actually went to a friend's house. Growing up, I didn't really go to friends' houses that much. But I believe he had the first Resident Evil game.
Oh.
But
Speaking of which, you heard about the remake, right?
yeah, they
Resident
remade.
Evil 4.
Yeah,
That's what David's been playing.
Yeah, it's really good. I haven't played it, but that's mostly because I don't buy video games enough. I probably should buy more.
That's how I feel every time I open my Steam. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. Well, my problem is about my Steam, which has over what am I?
Yeah, you're good on Steam, Jesus.
207 games.
Right.
Most of them are just little freebie games, but yeah.
Still.
But yeah, the original PlayStation. I played as many games as possible on there. In fact, my favorite game on that console is one that is somewhat hard to find. Where is my? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, it is called Xenogears. Now, I actually have the strategy guide for it right in front of me. Now, some people say that the Xenoblade games are an extension of the Xenogears saga. Comes off of the Xenogear games. I don't think so. I have played this game to Tarnation, and I probably might hook up a PlayStation 2 and play it again. Now that we're talking about it. But the concept, it might have stemmed from the concept of this game, but it is nothing like this game. Because Xenogears was about giant mech suits that you could pilot, whereas Xenoblade was about a sword. It just does not connect in my brain. I'll have to look it all up sometime.
Is it like Zoids by any chance? Because I know Zoids.
Sort of. It is similar to that, but they were, the general, like Gundams.
Yeah,
mechs.
yeah.
Yeah, that type of thing.
Well, that's pretty much Zoids too, but yeah.
No, because Zoids were animals, Gundams were people shaped.
Oh my god.
It's very important. Though I do like Zoids, though I only liked the one that Japanese people, I don't know, the one where they were battling in arenas or whatever. That's the only Zoids I really watched. But yeah, the original PlayStation. Lots of cool games came out on it, so a lot of people played it. Let's move on. The PlayStation 2. Again,
there we go.
A lot of games came on it, and a lot of people played it. I don't remember. I did not have many PlayStation 2 games per se. I usually
didn't have a
them.
ton, but the few I did have got played a lot.
Yeah. I rented most of my games from Blockbuster. So,
right.
I didn't actually physically own the games.
Well, I owned a DDR mat at one point, and Guitar Hero and Rock Band, and my
Yeah,
PlayStation was used for that mainly. I also some friends I made a while back that I don't really talk to anymore, they really liked this like WWE game, so I just kind of played along with that. But other than that, it was mostly those song games.
right. I never really got into wrestling games. I remember renting them, but they were just kind of meh. Oh, okay. So, wow, we're already at 30 minutes and we haven't even gotten to the PlayStation 3.
I mean, we can
Yeah,
do a
we can.
part two.
No,
Just
there's
make
not
this
too
the
much.
older console episode.
No, there's not too much left to go. It's PlayStation 3 and basically the Switch. I mean, yes, there's the. Uh,
PS4, PS5,
yeah, I don't have those.
Xbox
You have the.
One.
Yeah, yeah. This is
I
basically
don't
the
have all
PlayStation.
those. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
the PlayStation 3 is where I kind of stopped buying consoles. So,
I think that's where everyone stopped buying those because, like, I didn't know anybody that had one, and I just played my PS2 throughout that whole phase. So,
yeah, the PlayStation 3 was literally the last console I purchased.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so I haven't had a console since then, personally. I mean, my sister had bought the Wii U, and so did my brother.
Oh my gosh, we didn't touch on any of the Wii's.
Yeah, because there was the original Wii, the Wii U, and the Wii. The original Wii was interesting.
I didn't own one of those, but I think a family member did, and we
Yeah,
used it sometimes. Um, that was fun. There was a lot of really fun family things to do on there. The Wii U was mine though. I got that for Christmas, and that was a lot of fun. Uh, we were making like the Mii's or
yeah,
the like with two eyes, and then your little me could be a character in games and stuff, and it was just that was a fun um like change,
yeah,
That's one thing I've always appreciated about Nintendo is like actual innovation and not just being like, here's fancier graphics. Now give us $1,000,
right.
Because you're gonna need more controllers, you're gonna need all the $60 games, but nothing's really like that crazy uh different other than Nintendo.
Yep.
They'll rant and rave about their new controllers, but like who was really like that happy about a touchpad on a controller,
Right.
Referencing of course the PlayStation 4 controllers, I believe is
Yep.
when they started doing that. But yeah, it was clunky and all, and a lot of people say that it was a step in the right direction, especially after how hard a lot of Wii U games failed. Or not Wii U, sorry, the original Wii games.
Yeah.
Because it was just like motion sensors, man. They still hadn't been like really solidly done yet. But then, of course, the Switch came out and just like made Wii U into what it was always supposed to be. And
Yep.
now it's like you can't meet anyone without a Switch.
Yeah, and the Switch basically killed the Game Boy, which isn't a bad thing
Yeah.
entirely.
No, it's not. It's not. The screens, I mean, it's just a bigger screened Game Boy.
Yeah.
I love it though. I think it's great. People joke all the time about how phone screens, the point was to be like as small and compact as possible. But now it's like a feature to have the biggest phone screen as humanly
I
possible.
now have an
Like
8-inch
everybody needs that big
screen.
screen.
Yep.
Right, exactly.
They made bigger pockets just to fit your phone. You have the person pulling out like a 3-foot phone out of their front pocket. Yeah.
Right. What's the difference between a phone and a tablet anymore? Like, can we just start putting SIM cards in tablets? Let's just do that.
Actually, I think some of them do.
I wouldn't be surprised. Uh,
But yeah, the Nintendo Switch, basically, it's the console that everyone buys at least once.
Yeah. It'd be nice to upgrade to an OLED, but
Yeah.
not like absolutely necessary, but it would be nice to have the bigger screen. I think it had better graphics too, but
I mean, if I buy a console, I'm going to go with a Switch.
yeah, but the OLED is the Switch is just like a bigger version, like
Yeah.
how they did with the um what did they do that with? The lights, I think. The Switch lights were they like was that Switch? What did they do? I think it was the Switch. Whereas like they made it to where it was just the screen.
Oh, yeah.
It is basically the mobile version of the
Yep,
Switch
the
without the
Switch Lite.
separated control.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they made like two size screens for it or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
But
this is probably a good place to end our podcast for the day. We're at 35 minutes, so.
might as well.
Yeah.
Told you we should have saved the newer consoles.
Yeah, but I literally had the PlayStation 3 and the Switch. That was all that was really left there, so. I mean, we're not doing the history of all consoles, just the ones that we've actually interacted with. So. All right. Thank you all for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, or whatever the things you do for these YouTube and Rumble channel things. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we go?
I just want to know what y'all's like first console was, if any, I guess. What was your first console? Like, what did you love about it? What did you hate about it? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.